Welcome to another Men Able Moments with me, Steve Whitten. Now, this is a really interesting and different one today because my guest is somebody who was a guest previously, who's then gone on to be one of our most prolific platinum members of the Men Able movement and is a great supporter of everything that we do. And I have to say, turning that around as well, is actually the leader of a fantastic business that we love working with. We love working with him and his team. So welcome to Men Able Matters for the second time, Chris Wiseman. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you, Stephen, and thanks for the opportunity to have a chat, really, albeit informal or spontaneous, and who knows where it will go. We'll just have to see.
Well, that's what we like, yes, because that's the other thing I should have said in the intro, is that for this particular Men Able moment, we don't have a specific agenda. We don't have a title even, do we? We just say we're going to have a bit of a chat. You've got some questions for me. I've probably got some questions for you in the conversation, and we'll just see how it goes.
I guess I ought to start by saying, how are you revving today? Would be the opening. Should be the opening gambit, shouldn't it, of any conversation we have? Because I came in on about a 3. I probably hit about a 12 earlier on.
And really? No, that's not good.
I'm hoping this will bring me back down a little bit. But
that's our task for today.
I think it's endemic of the time of year, isn't it? It seems that lots of people tend to be winding down, and I suspect I won't be the only head of the business that says this is the busiest time of the year you ever get, because you're trying to cram everything in. Fortunately, we're not doing budgets, but we have a fiscal year, but that will be the next thing. And so it's a bit of a crazy time, I think, for heads of business and everyone else who, or would have been wanting a Christmas party had the government not decided whether we can or can't have one, I think.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah. Are they still having theirs, do you think, the government? I mean, are they still having
Allegedly not, but who knows? But I thought it would be apt because we're sort of 9 months into our relationship with Men Able and Wessex Garages. So an opportunity to look back. You've just done a year. And celebrated that. So I guess my question to you is, what have you learned over the last year, and what's in store for next year, really?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, Chris, is if you follow, if you work out what your purpose is and you follow that, and it really genuinely comes from the heart, good things will follow. Good things come as a result of that, and that's not easy day to day. Still life goes on, and there's still bills to pay and things to happen in the background. But I often say that there was 2 roads for me when everything sort of kicked off. One was the road of hope, one was the road of despair. Both get to the same destination. Despair will get you there quicker though. And I chose the road of hope. So I mean, I just keep learning from that every single day, that work out what your purpose is, follow that, and be authentic, be true to who you are, own your truth as well, whatever it is that's going on for you, own it. And, it just seems to resonate with other people, and, people want to be a part of it, and they buy into the authenticity. And I just think that's a major series of learning throughout the year, really. So what about for you?
Well, yeah, it's been a learning curve. I mean, this time of year is also quite an interesting time of year, isn't it? In terms of normally, let alone having a COVID situation upon us and people now working from home, you'd normally either be looking forward to Christmas, or there'll be a lot of people out there that aren't looking forward to Christmas, and it's a different time with different memories and a bit of solitude or loneliness, or missing loved ones out there. So I would normally be on it's Christmas time, and we're it's great. I can have a few days off and a few glasses of wine. And this year I have a different view on it. And a lot of that comes from working with you guys. And it got me thinking, prior to having this discussion, of actually, there'll be maybe people within our own organisation that when they go home, and it's a different environment, isn't it, that we would see. And I'll just think, well, how do you reach out to those people and let those people know that you kind of, if you want to speak to somebody, or how do we recognise it? And obviously that's something we've been working on.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, we do the Men Able Moments in the Motor Trade Radio podcast every fortnight.
And I'm a listener. I'm an avid listener.
I know you are. You got a shout out a couple of weeks ago.
Indeed, I heard.
But we've just got one coming up this weekend. Should just say, actually, shouldn't we, that by when we record this, it's sort of mid-December 2021. So in case anyone's watching this back in June. We've got one coming up this weekend, and I talk all about the pressure that's on people, and it fits with our 12 Days of Christmas sort of campaign that we've recently run. And you're spot on. I mean, you imagine if you're, a sales exec in a busy dealership, you might be working till 4, 5, 6 o'clock Christmas Eve. You go home and actually all you want to do is flop and chill out on the settee for 2 days. But your family have got other ideas, and they're going to drag you off to all the relatives, and you're going to eat a lot of rich food and, maybe drink as well and travel. And then there's the cost implication. And actually that can put a huge amount of pressure on someone, that it's this sort of big build up to this massive crescendo, when actually an awful lot of people who work a lot of hours just think, what, I'd love to just sit and do absolutely nothing.
And obviously the flip side of those people that rely on that working environment for, interaction and company and are going home to, on their own, or, a difficult circumstance at home. So I think it's an interesting one, how you put that, or how we get as a business to try and put that message out to our colleagues that, well, you need to, we do the whole, how are you today and how are you having today? And, we try and promote that wherever we can. But we're early days into that. We always knew it was going to be a long road for us.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah. I mean, you're spot on. And I think you're right. I mean, I'm going to spend Christmas Day on my own this year for the first time probably ever. But I've put some strategies in place to deal with that. I'm going to do some volunteering for a very worthy cause for a few hours. And, it's quite a short day anyway, isn't it, in reality? So by the time you've got up, had some breakfast, gone and done your volunteering, come back, cook yourself a little dinner, watch a film, the day is over. So I'm certainly not putting myself under any pressure, but I'm with you. And I totally get that. It can be a very lonely and disparate kind of place to be. And I think what we should be doing is encouraging as many people as possible who need to reach out, talk to someone, pick up the phone, interact. And, it's a time for love and kindness. And, it's probably never been more important, has it?
No, absolutely not. I'll be doing my podcast, if you like, for want of a better word, to all of the colleagues in the business anyway, as an update on what we've got going on. We've got huge things going on in the business at the moment. And of course, the market's all over the place, and new cars, and it's a crazy enough time as it is, and it's difficult to get the time to update everybody. But I'll be doing a little recording and sending it out to them, and I'll attach this to it as well. So it would be a good opportunity for them or for it to reinforce what we're doing with you guys, and just to let them know that there is a business that will listen to them. So
yeah, indeed. That's good. Well, your team are not backwards in coming forwards if they need help and support, and that support runs all over the Christmas period. So if anyone's feeling stressed and strained and need a chat, we're here. So
yeah, that's great, and that's we'll attach some links, I think, at the end when we send this out. I was going to ask, actually, because not just within my organisation, because I'm aware of it, but it might be, obviously, without naming names and naming organisations, an opportunity for you to give examples of real life examples, really, of what you've achieved in terms of specific cases or specific, things that you've been involved in. Is that something you can, off the top of your head, you can come up with?
Yeah, definitely. We went out to the industry in February, and my original sort of reach out was to Dash Gupta and just said, look, I've got this idea. What do you think? Can I bounce it off you and get some feedback? We're just expecting him to do just that, give me feedback, and for us to tweak it and amend it. But actually he went, no, I love it. He said, yeah, sign me up, and I want to be a patron. So wow, what just happened? I don't, pinch myself. And then that sort of ball got rolling with several others, including yourself. And so, yeah, from an achievement point of view this year, we're now up to what I think 7 patrons, 7 patron members, which includes obviously yourself and Adam Turner at Chorley, and Dash, of course, Steve at the IMI, Santander have come on recently, and we've got another one that's just, and going to be announced this week. Which is great. But actually, go back to probably what your question is pointing at, which is, what are we actually doing? The real purpose of what we're doing is supporting individuals. And I think what I'm getting every day is feedback from people who are saying they're having the rev counter conversation. It's causing them to have conversations within their business. That's causing them to put metaphorical arms around people and support each other, and and prevent them getting to the 7, 8, or 9 where they then need to go and have some kind of therapy. Equally, though, we have had some people who have got fairly close to crisis point and have reached out. And proactively, some of your managers have been taking the lead in that as well, haven't they, with some of the people in their teams? And we've then had conversations with people to help them through some of their challenges, and that's really what this is all about. And it's not just about providing a service that sits back and waits for someone to go, oh, I've had enough, I need to pick up the phone now. It is genuinely about getting into business like yours with proactive leaders like you and saying, come on, what can we do? Let's challenge the culture. Let's challenge what we've always done, and just support and help and look out for each other. So when I look back on all that, I think, wow, yeah, we've done all right, haven't we?
Yeah, in a year, it's not bad, is it?
Well,
I mean, certainly within our organisation, we've seen managers question the way they would normally deal with a problem, performance issues or whatever, or absence, in a totally different way. I mean, the opening questions are totally different now than they would have been 2 years ago in our business.
Wow,
and I think that's quite refreshing to hear people saying, actually, this guy's got a problem that may not be a work problem. And it might not just be a performance problem, but it could be, it manifests itself in so many different ways, doesn't it? But yeah, I think it's been an eye-opener to hear our managers talk to the colleagues and the staff in a completely different way. And I was at an event the other day, the AFI event, and the speaker was Nigel, I always forget his surname, the rugby referee,
right?
Welsh rugby referee, talking about his life and why rugby referees are totally different to football referees and the reaction of the players. And that whole meeting then kind of rolled into another day's meeting where lots of different key speakers, but it was all talking about respect. It was all, everything came back to it was respect to human beings, isn't it? And respecting one another in the workplace or whatever happens to be, the way you talk to people, the way you communicate with people. It was, quite an amazing couple of days, really, speaking to that, because it didn't really start off with a theme, but everything kind of went back into this theme of respecting people in the workplace. And I think there's a lot to, I don't think that just works in the workplace anymore. That should be outside as well. So we're seeing that more and more.
Yeah, it's a very good point, because I think, I mean, I had a couple of days working down there with you guys, didn't I? And, got some good insights into you and your teams and how it works there. And, I think, respect is most definitely there, but I think what we've probably done is together is kind of shone a light on, actually, you've got to have respect and empathy to have a little bit of understanding of what's going on for other people. And there are, by contrast, other businesses that I'm aware of where, I know one sales exec, for example, who's told me that most days they still kind of take bets on which one of them is going to be called an expletive by 8:30 in the morning by their sales manager.
Wow.
And you think, hang on, is it 2021 or 1921? Which is it? Because that stuff's still going on, and you're right, it comes back to, but people are if they're under pressure, their default position, might be aggression or anger. And if there's not a lot of respect there, that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I totally agree. It does, and it starts from the top, as we know, and we try and permeate that down, really. But so what can we expect for 2022 from Manavel?
Well,
there's a leading question.
Yeah, hot off the press, right? I tell you what, we are, I don't want to sound like some sort of communist when I say this. Not there's anything wrong with that. I wasn't meant to sound judgmental. But we are going to work to give the power to the people. Power to the people. Who was that? Citizen Smith, wasn't it? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was
Robert Lindsay.
Now they're both showing our age.
I was going to say, yeah, there's going to be people who are going to watch this who go, I've got no idea who you're talking about.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're going to create something that's going to give the power to the people, because, you know, as proactive and as forward thinking as you are, you know, we would need lots and lots and lots of employers like you to come on board, and then it's a slow, gradual process of spreading the word and getting the message across through workshops and training and keynotes and whatever it might be. So our plan for next year is to create something, a platform where individuals can kind of access this stuff themselves immediately, and start having those rev counter conversations, you know, without that having to have been as a result of a training session that they did 6 weeks ago or whatever it might be. So yeah, so watch this space and what that's going to look like. I mean, the technology and everything is there for that to be something that can easily be done these days. And I think from a strategic level, you know, we set out at the beginning that Menable is about awareness, education, and prevention. And I think what we've done in our first year is probably ticked a fair few of the awareness boxes. You know, you'd have to be not very prolific on LinkedIn to not see something that we're putting out. And I say that smiling because I know the guys at Motor Trade Radio podcast take the mick out of me for that most weeks, that we're all over LinkedIn and stuff. So yeah, so I think we, you know, with the help of people like yourself, we've done a fairly good job of raising the awareness. And so much so, you know, that I don't even mind now that I know that there are other entrants coming into this space that are probably causing some parts of the industry to go, oh, well, you know, should we do that with you or that with them, you know? And actually, do you know what? I don't care. I really don't care, because if you come with us, great. But if you don't come with us and you do whatever else you want to do instead, you know, at the end of the day, you've now raised the mental health and well-being agenda in your business, which is a good thing. And that's a good thing for the individuals. And, you know, if we've influenced that, we've done the groundwork, then so be it. I'm happy with that. And next year is then about education. So let's start now working with managers and leaders and people in the businesses to say, right, come on, let's press the reset button. We've all had a horrendous 2 years. What does the future now look like in a much more emotionally intelligent, compassionate world?
No, that's a good point. And I know we've talked about it before, and I said that I didn't want my involvement or our involvement in Menable to be a training course per se, because I think some of those entrants may well be offering just that. You know, let's come in and train your staff and then flit out again. And I never saw it at that to start with. I think the bit that interested me is it was about awareness, more, you'd call it a cultural shift, rather than just deliver a training course, tick a box, and then we carry on and do something else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what excited me about the project to start with, is the amount of education that we could deliver to people and start those conversations, albeit difficult. That said, I'm looking forward to next year and what we've discussed in creating a training course for the business, which isn't solely around mental awareness, but brings that into the training of our management team.
Yeah.
So that when we're talking about how to manage and measure a sales team, we're not just doing it from a numbers point of view, we're doing it from an emotional point of view as well, so that we can, you know, be aware of how we're managing the individual teams and the managers themselves. And I think that'd be a massive part. We can, you know, that's my project or one of my projects for certainly the January period, is to piece that together with yourself and some of our other training partners to see if we can come up with something that's really quite different. I think, you know, we've talked about staff retention before now, and I think it will deliver something that is not just about a series of training courses that you can go on, but a really linked in approach to all parts of training delivered by individuals, but no contradictions. Everybody's working towards the one goal.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a great project to get hold of. I think, and it may not be unique. I'm sure there's people out there doing similar sorts of stuff, but it will be the first time we as a business have gone down that route, rather than just a separate, here's a training course for a salesman, or here's a course on something else. It'll have relevance. It'll have real relevance, I think.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, you say it won't be unique. I'm not so sure, because I know that, the 3 organizations that you've brought together, that you want to do this, are all independently doing stuff that's pretty unique. And I think you put that together and we've got something quite powerful there, really. And I think, as you said, there are an awful lot of, having come from a training and development background, I know that the tendency in the industry has been, we've got a problem. How do we fix it? Let's bring in some trainers, sheep dip everyone through a day or 2 days worth of training, and off you go. And, oh, look, hang on, 6 weeks later, we've got the problem again. Well, that training didn't work, did it? And because we're not addressing the fundamentals. And I think that's what we've talked about, and where we'll go with that. And I think put all of that together and joined up, it has all the ingredients of being very unique.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
It's going to be exciting, yeah.
Putting my head around it while I'm off for a few days at Christmas, and coming back with some sort of blueprint and getting everybody together. So,
and I'll tell you what makes it different, Chris, if I'm honest, is the fact that you're driving it. I mean, so much of the work that we've done in the past has been where someone has said, or come in, give us a brief for what you can do, and then they kind of not disown it, but they abrogate their responsibilities almost immediately, and and they put it in the hands of a training provider, and and then it's 6 months later you're going, they're not quite getting the message, are they?
It's an interesting one. It's an expression I use, where people abdicate responsibility as soon as they see an opportunity not to have to deal with it themselves. And I get, oh, that's not me, that's somebody else now. He has to deal with it. That's him, isn't it? It's not me. And as soon as you start to either help, or you have an idea, it's a way of streamlining the system, and it's either 50% of people come on board and 50% of people say, I don't have to do that anymore, it's great. So, somebody else can deal with that. So yeah, it's an expression I use quite a lot.
Yeah.
Quite a lot. It's too easy to do that in our industry.
No, it is. So what's made the difference for you guys this year then? I mean, you mentioned about you seeing sort of increased levels of respect and empathy, and people are now having conversations. I don't want anyone to particularly take credit for it, but at what point was there a catalyst, do you think, or what started to change?
Well, I think my opening one always came from that a podcast or interview that you came with, and that was about I think the comment about, if we start talking about it, people will start swinging the lead, I think was the expression. and your comment of, well, if that's the case, what sort of culture have you got in your business where you think by talking to somebody they're going to start swinging the lead? And that was I thought that it stuck in my mind. It resonated with me for quite a while, that particular comment, which is why I reached out. And that's what I've used as the example when I brought on my exec board, and I spoke to them about what we were doing, and my team, and how they are also involved in it quite heavily and believe in it. We brought in people to the business that we openly wanted them to challenge decisions that we would normally make in a different way, with a different skill set, because we always used to think we were right all the time, but there's other ways of doing things now, and our increased resource into our HR department is something that came on at the right time, and we've enhanced that again. We've got a new starter now within our HR department that's joined us to strengthen that team, which is fantastic. But I think it's the way that we now approach either employment when we're bringing in managers into the business, the way that we're talking about it in our induction process with all of our team and our staff. It forms part of our communication all the time. It's very, we're very aware of it, and lots of people will say to me about how we rev in today and this sort of thing. So I think as a starting point, that to me is great, because I think you're hanging your hat on something that opens a conversation with all sorts of things. I'm getting managers of mine, senior managers in some cases, coming in sort of telling me that they're okay, just to let you know, everything's good, and volunteering, without me even asking them. They're telling me that things are good. So I think that has helped. We've changed so much in the business the last 18 months, whether it be in the online space, whether it be in systems and processes, and I put all of these. We're having a good year. We're not the only people out there having a good year, and quite rightly so. But it's in tough times. We're being hit with all sorts of challenges and problems all the time. All of these little parts are incremental. I'm not going to say we've suddenly become the best used car retailers in the world, because guess what? Everyone has all of a sudden become the best used car retailers, haven't they? But if you combine a marketplace and some success in business and better processes, and then you start talking about well-being and mental health awareness, and then if you can start driving down staff turnover, and then you can start driving down absenteeism, because you're doing all of those things, and people can see that the things you're doing in the business are positive. There are more carrots today than sticks, in our business, which I think is fundamentally the right thing to do. And they're not just financial carrots. There are all sorts of things. I mean, we're closing Christmas Eve this year, totally still, for 5 days. And I think, we would, now you've got to come in, and it's probably a half day for some people and a half day for not. And I really just thought, well, hang on a second, guys, we're kidding ourselves here. Let's just close the business. Let's have a break, have some time off now. So so we don't come back to the following Wednesday.
Oh wow, that's good.
And I think that's going to give people a really good break and a chance to recharge their batteries. And they're small things, they're little things, but I think it does show the business changes. And along with that comes a zero tolerance in other areas of the business, in inequality and diversity as well, which is hand in hand with mental well-being.
100% is, without a doubt.
Cultures of bullying that could exist in the business, or what we would typically refer to in this trade as banter, which is far from acceptable now. All of those components all fit together, and I think it fits together because as the management team, we're now pretty clear on our objectives. When I set out 2 years ago, and I took over as MD, and I got all of the management team in a room and said, we're going to make this a better company. We're a good company. We're by no means were we a bad company. We're 35 years old. And you don't stay in business that long if you're a poor company. But industry was changing. The whole culture of things was changing. Mental health awareness has come on board since then. And there were lots of different ways I wanted to make the company better, and put my stamp on it, if you like, for want of a better word. I wanted to make it my sense. Company, and people to feel it changed, people to feel the company was going in a different direction. And you put all that together, and I think it's working for us. I mean, the financials look like it's working. I would communication's certainly better, and we'll continue down that route. I think we'll continue to. 5 years ago, we wouldn't be looking at becoming patrons of a startup called Manable. That would have been totally off the radar for us.
Yeah, no, what? Yeah, well, it was for me as well.
Yeah,
I always had a hankering towards mental health and sort of the well-being of people in our industry, but that was from bad experience of my own. But to keep the motor trade sort of analogies and metaphors going, I was talking to somebody yesterday. I might give you a clue as to who it is, because they're a sort of a supplier that, and they specialize in bicycles as well as car stuff. And we were talking to them about, the equivalent of what you've just described there, Chris, is about getting a wheel balanced. If a wheel's not balanced, I mean, if the wheel's not true, it's going to do that, isn't it? Side to side. But if it's not balanced, excuse me, as it spins round, it's got dear idea. It's got getting caught on my words. As it spins round, it's going to bounce and it's going to rock and it's going to bump, And I think if you imagine that the five spokes that we've talked about before, if you, if any one of those is not balanced with the others, that wheel is literally just going to spin almost out of control. And I think that's the sort of next analogy alongside the rev counter that we'll be working on, really.
Yeah, a lot of analogies you can make in the motor industry. We've got a lot of material to work on, haven't you?
Well, we have, but I also have to have a little bit of a moan about something. And this is a bit of a mission that I'm on, because you remember that there was an event that you and I were at a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And there was some unfortunately drinking juiced, very typical male toxic behaviors directed towards some of the ladies that were there. And I looked at that and I thought, oh, it made me cringe. It really did, for two reasons. One, it's not acceptable at all. And the second one is, if I'm totally honest, I probably could have been somebody who was guilty of doing that a few years ago. And so I think, let's not, it'd be very easy to criticize the people involved in that. But I think the point for me is, next year, one of the things for us is to say, look, some of that comes from the lack of self-esteem, the lack of confidence, the lack of belief in yourself, the lack of self-worth, that comes from society and education and culture, not just from our industry. So it's it's just purely an observation at this point, but watch this space, because that's going to be some stuff that we'll be looking at next year.
I think it's very relevant. The meeting I referred to earlier was one of the speakers was Julia Muir from the 30% Club.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the respect conversation that we had before. But there is you look at those events and you can't help notice that the percentage of men in the room compared to females in the room has always been wildly out of kilter. Wildly out of kilter. And I hope that changes, really. I hope that balance and comes back into it, and gradually, because that doesn't happen overnight, but gradually those events become less I don't know, geared
painful.
towards less painful, less geared towards the male environment, because they can be, can't they? They can be, very much that. So
not looking to fix that. What I am looking to do is to say, right, let's provide some positives around that and help the individuals that are perpetuating that to deal with their own confidences and self-esteem issues that's causing that behavior to happen.
Well, one thing working with you, and we have regular little chats on a Friday afternoon, is always that. It does make you look at, from my perspective, it makes me look at how I dealt with the week. Certainly, when we talk things through, what was affecting those decisions that week? Was it, and where was I revving when I made that decision? But fortunately, I think that's all under control. You'd have to ask my team that.
Oh, we think you're a top man, Chris. You know that. So, and I personally do enjoy our little Friday afternoon chats, where we tend to bounce stuff off each other, and that again, that's a key outcome of what we're trying to do, is just to create, that kind of support framework and support network around us. And if we can get, leaders in the industry doing that together, then the next step has got to be getting parts advisors doing it, and service advisors doing it, and warranty administrators and sales execs and everyone else, valeters.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. I'm looking forward to bringing on some of our enablers that we've discussed before, and getting that framework. That's the next thing for us. I think to get those people actively in the business as champions. And I think that will be a great step forward for us next year. Yeah,
no, I agree. Now, a quick question for you then, because I know that you are looking at various sort of growth strategies for your business. I don't want to say too much about that, because I know you've got stuff going on. How do you as a leader manage all of that and keep doing the stuff that you've talked about? And keep your revs at 2.5.
And keep the revs at 2.5. Yeah, that's interesting. And there's a real simple answer to that, isn't there? It's a team around you that you need to do it. It's stepping into this role, especially in the COVID period, was all about looking forward and trying to plan and think and take some actions to getting out and what it looked like the other side of it. The simple answer is, I've suddenly become an expert in property and leases and legal matters that I didn't know that I was needed to be an expert in, as well as our board meetings and communication that we have with VT Holdings, our holding company, that are incredibly supportive of us. It is stepping away. You have to let stuff go. I'm a control freak. I want to be involved in everything, to all the detail of it, and you can't do it anymore. You just have to trust the people below you are going to carry it out in the way that you would do it, or the way that they're going to do it is better. And we've consolidated lots of things in our organization. We're choosing the right business partners that want to work with us to fit into our organization, whether that be our advertising agency Fiora, or whether that be our suppliers of dealer management systems. Start to finish, we have a process, and we want to work with partners who want to work with us, really. So choose the right business partners. Absolutely right. Having the right team around you, got to have. And some of that's been difficult because we've made difficult decisions in that process to reshape the business. And if dealing with a property lease is a lot simpler than having to restructure or reshape a business and have difficult conversations with people. The simple fact is, if we've got the right people, they are flexible, they're adaptable, they'll see what the end vision is, and they'll work with you to get you along the journey. Some people don't. Some people will see that as a real negative, and they don't come on the journey, and that's disappointing. But everyone has that choice, don't they? But in answer to your question, lots of juggling, lots of hours, and a good team around you. And it's a learning curve. Every day is a school day. Every day is a school day for me.
That's good. I think one of the questions I asked you in the previous podcast and when we've spoken is, is there anyone in your business that stick their head around the door and forget the stripes, forget the badge over the door and the role and all the rest of it, and genuinely just say, Chris, how are you today? How are you revving? Just a human. And I know me and you do that, but
Yeah, and believe it or not, yes, I do have people now that say, how am I?
That's amazing.
So there you go. So
that's brilliant.
If anything's worked, that's worked.
Yeah, because when I've asked other MDs and CEOs that question, they kind of look at the ceiling and go, that's a really good question. Because no, people see the badge first and then fear, that they can ask another human being how they're doing, just purely because they're, more senior than them. So
I think we're okay with that. I think we have a fairly open door policy here. So I think that's the amount of people that walk in and out of my office, I think it must have an open door policy.
I know, I've been there. I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
It might be the croissants.
Yeah, we don't talk about those. We're giving them up for the new year.
Oh right, okay. I'll bring me own next time then.
Unless you visit.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. That's a deal.
Okay.
Good stuff. Chris, that's been a really good, interesting chat. Thank you so much for that. And actually, I think it was your suggestion. So well done.
There you go. No, look, it's a good opportunity. Good opportunity to say to anyone that does listen to this, happy Christmas, and stay in this environment, stay safe and well over the Christmas period. And let's look forward to coming out the other side and really having a good 2022, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you are listening to this in June, let's hope your 2022 has been okay so far and you're planning 2023.
Great stuff. And I look forward to your podcast.
Likewise. Yeah, thank you. Chris, you're a top man. Thank you so much indeed. And
Thanks,
we'll catch up soon. Take care.
Brilliant. Thank you.